In a town in Persia, long, long ago, lived two brothers. One was named Qasim and the other was named Alibaba. Their father had left them a small amount of money, which they divided equally between them. Qasim married a woman who had a rich shop and became a wealthy merchant. He lived in a big house and had many fine things. He did not often think of his brother, Alibaba, as he was busy with his money and his shop. People knew Qasim was rich, but he was not always kind. Alibaba, however, married a woman who was as poor as himself. He had no grand shop or big house, living instead in a small, humble cottage. His life was very different from Qasim's. To support his wife and children, Alibaba worked as a woodcutter. Every day, he would go to the forest with his 3 donkeys, chop down trees, cut the wood, and load it onto his donkeys to sell in town. His work was hard, the sun often very hot, and the forest sometimes dangerous. But Alibaba was a patient man and did not complain about his hard life. He loved his family very much, working tirelessly to provide food for them. He was honest in his dealings, and people in the town knew Alibaba was poor, but they also knew he was a good man. He was content with his simple life, not dreaming of great riches, only wishing for enough to keep his family safe and fed. Qasim, on the other hand, grew richer every year. His wife's shop did very well and he bought and sold more goods, counting his money often and feeling proud of his wealth. But he was not generous and did not offer to help his poorer brother Alibaba. If Alibaba ever needed anything, Qasim was not quick to lend a hand. The two brothers lived in the same town, but their lives were worlds apart. One brother had much but perhaps wanted more, while the other had little but found happiness in simple things. This was how they lived until one day something changed. One morning, Alibaba went to the forest as he always did. The sun was just beginning to rise, and with his axe over his shoulder, his 3 donkeys walked patiently behind him. He planned to cut a good load of wood, hoping to sell it for a fair price in the town. The forest was quiet at this early hour, with only the sounds of birds and insects. Alibaba walked deeper into the forest than usual, looking for good, dry trees to make his work easier and his wood better. He found a good spot with many trees suitable for cutting. Setting down his tools, he began to chop at a large tree, the sound of his axe echoing through the quiet woods. He worked steadily for some time, the sun climbing higher in the sky. As he paused to rest, he heard a distant sound, a low rumbling that grew louder and louder. It sounded like thunder, but the sky was clear and blue. Alibaba looked up and saw a great cloud of dust moving quickly towards him. Realizing it was the sound of many horses ridden very fast, he became worried. Knowing that robbers sometimes used the forest as a hiding place, he did not want to be seen by a large group of unknown men. Thinking quickly, he needed to hide himself and his donkeys. Safety was his first concern for himself and his animals. He quickly untied his donkeys and led them into a thick part of the woods, finding a spot where they would be well hidden. Then he looked for a place for himself, spotting a tall, strong tree with thick leaves and strong branches. Climbing up, he found a place where he could see without being seen, settling down to watch with curiosity, but also very carefully, hoping the horseman would pass by without noticing anything. From his high perch in the tree, Alibaba watched as the cloud of dust came closer. Soon he could see the horsemen clearly, many of them. He began to count them carefully, 1, 2, 3, all the way to 40. There were exactly 40 men, all heavily armed with swords and daggers, looking fierce and dangerous. Alibaba was sure they were not ordinary travelers, they looked like a band of robbers. He stayed very still and quiet in the tree as the horsemen rode directly towards the spot where he was hiding. They stopped near a very large rock at the foot of a small hill, a lonely and deserted place. The men dismounted from their horses, tying them to nearby shrubs. They seemed tired from their long ride, stretching and talking amongst themselves in low voices. Alibaba watched their every move, both frightened and fascinated, as he had never seen such a group of men before. Their leader was a tall, strong man with a commanding voice, seeming to be the captain of the robbers. The other men listened to him respectfully, following his orders. The captain carried a heavy bag, seemingly full of something valuable, and walked towards the large rock with the other robbers gathering around him. Alibaba leaned forward slightly, trying to see and hear everything, wondering what they were going to do next. This was a strange and unexpected event. The captain stood before the smooth face of the rock, looking around to make sure no one was watching. Of course, he did not see Alibaba hidden in the tree. The other robbers stood silently, waiting. The captain then raised his voice and spoke some strange words. Alibaba strained his ears to hear. The words were clear and loud. The captain said, "Open, sesame!" Alibaba was astonished. What did these words mean? What would happen next? He held his breath in anticipation. As soon as the captain spoke the words, "Open, sesame!" something amazing happened. A part of the rock began to move, and a hidden door appeared in the side of the rock. The door slid open silently, revealing a dark opening like the entrance to a cave. Alibaba could not believe his eyes. It was like magic. He had heard tales of such things, but he had never seen it himself. The robbers did not seem surprised. They acted as if this was a normal thing for them. This was clearly their secret place. The captain gestured for his men to enter, and one by one the 40 thieves walked into the cave carrying their saddlebags. Alibaba guessed that these bags were full of stolen goods. They stayed inside the cave for some time, and although Alibaba could not see what they were doing, he could only hear muffled sounds from within. He remained perfectly still in his tree, not daring to move a muscle, afraid of being discovered by these dangerous men. His heart beat fast with a mix of fear and excitement. After a while, the robbers began to come out of the cave, no longer carrying their heavy saddlebags. Alibaba guessed they had left their treasure inside. They looked pleased with themselves as they mounted their horses again. The captain was the last one to come out of the cave. He stood before the open door, looked around once more, and then spoke another command. "Shut, sesame!" Instantly, the door in the rock slid closed, disappearing completely, and the rock looked just like any other rock again. The robbers then rode away, heading back in the direction they had come from. Alibaba watched them until they were out of sight, waiting for a long time after they had gone to be sure they would not return suddenly. The forest became quiet again, with only the usual sounds of nature. Alibaba slowly climbed down from the tree, his mind racing. He had seen an incredible secret. He knew the magic words and about the hidden cave. What should he do now? Section 5. Alibaba's brave exploration. Alibaba stood on the ground, thinking hard. He was still a little shaken by what he had seen. 40 armed robbers and a magic cave. It was like a story from a book. He was a poor woodcutter. Such adventures were not part of his normal life. He thought about the words the captain had used, "Open, sesame," and "Shut, sesame." The words were clear in his mind. He felt a strong sense of curiosity. What was inside that cave? Was it full of treasure, as he suspected? He was also a little scared. The robbers were dangerous men. If they found him, they would surely harm him. But they were gone now. They were far away. He thought about his poverty. He thought about his wife and children. A little bit of treasure could change their lives. It could mean they would not have to struggle so much. He decided he had to see what was inside the cave. He would be very careful. He would only take a very small amount if there was anything to take. He walked towards the large rock. It looked solid and ordinary. There was no sign of a door. He took a deep breath. He remembered the captain's confident voice. He tried to imitate it. He stood tall and said clearly and firmly, "Open, sesame!" For a moment, nothing happened. Alibaba's heart sank. Had he remembered the words correctly, or did the magic only work for the robbers? He was about to turn away in disappointment. He thought perhaps it was all just a strange dream. Then he heard a faint grinding sound. The rock trembled slightly. Slowly, the hidden door began to slide open before him, just as it had for the captain of the thieves. Alibaba gasped in amazement. It had worked. The magic was real. The door opened fully, revealing the dark entrance to the cave. He peered inside. It was dark and mysterious. He hesitated for a moment. Was it safe to go in? But his curiosity and the hope of finding something valuable pushed him forward. He bravely stepped into the darkness. Section 6. A Cave of Wonders. As Alibaba stepped inside the cave, his eyes slowly adjusted to the dim light. The cave was much larger than he had expected. It was not a natural cave. It seemed to have been dug out by human hands. Light came from an opening high up in the ceiling. This opening let in some daylight. What he saw next made him gasp in astonishment. The cave was filled with treasure. There were piles of gold coins. There were bags of silver. There were heaps of precious jewels, diamonds, rubies and emeralds sparkling in the faint light. There were also rich silks and brocades. There were carpets of beautiful colours and patterns. There were valuable goods of all kinds. It was clear that this was the robbers' storeroom. This was where they kept all the things they had stolen over many years. Alibaba had never seen so much wealth in his entire life. He felt like he was in a dream. He walked slowly through the cave, looking at everything. He was careful not to disturb anything too much. He was overwhelmed by the sight of so much treasure. He remembered his poverty. He thought of his family. He knew he should not be greedy. He decided to take only a small amount. He saw some bags filled with gold coins. He opened one bag. The coins shone brightly. He took out enough gold coins to fill the small sacks he had brought for his corn. He did not take too much. He wanted to be able to carry it easily. He did not want to attract attention. He filled his sacks with the gold. Then he carefully closed the bag he had opened. He carried the sacks of gold back to the entrance of the cave. He went outside and brought his donkeys closer. He loaded the sacks of gold onto their backs. He then covered the sacks with the wood he had cut earlier. No one would suspect that he was carrying treasure. They would only see a poor woodcutter with his load of wood. He went back to the entrance of the cave. He stood before the open door. He said, "Shut, Sesame." The door slid closed silently. The rock looked ordinary again. Alibaba then led his donkeys home, his heart full of excitement and a little fear. Section 7. Qasim's Fatal Greed. When Alibaba arrived home, he led his donkeys into his small yard. He carefully unloaded the sacks. He took them inside his house. His wife was surprised to see him back so early. She was even more surprised when he emptied the sacks onto the floor. A pile of shining gold coins appeared. She had never seen so much gold. She asked Alibaba where he had found it. Alibaba told her the whole story. He told her about the robbers, the rock and the magic words. His wife was very happy, but she was also worried. She told Alibaba to be very careful. Alibaba decided to share his secret with his brother, Qasim. He thought Qasim, being a merchant, might know how to use the gold wisely. He also hoped Qasim would be happy for him. So Alibaba went to Qasim's house. He told Qasim about the cave and the treasure. Qasim was very surprised. He was also very jealous. He was already rich, but he always wanted more. He asked Alibaba for the exact location of the rock. He also asked for the magic words. Alibaba, being a kind brother, told him everything. He warned Qasim to be careful. Qasim could not sleep that night. He was thinking only of the treasure. He was very greedy. He wanted to get all the treasure for himself. Early the next morning, he took 10 strong mules. He went to the forest. He found the rock that Alibaba had described. He stood before it and said, "Open, Sesame." The door opened and he went inside. He was amazed by the vast amount of treasure. He was much greedier than Alibaba. He started to fill many large bags with gold and jewels. He was so excited and overwhelmed by his greed. When Qasim had gathered as much treasure as his mules could carry, he tried to leave. He went to the door and wanted to say the magic words, but he had forgotten them. His mind was so full of gold that the simple word sesame had slipped away. He tried open barley, he tried open wheat. He tried many other grains, but none of them worked. The door remained shut. Qasim was trapped inside the cave. He became very frightened. He ran around the cave trying to find another way out. But there was no other exit. His greed had led him into a terrible trap. Section 8. Morgiana's cleverness saves the day. Later that day, the 40 thieves returned to their cave. When they said, "Open, Sesame," the door opened. They were shocked to find Qasim inside. They were also angry to see that some of their treasure had been disturbed. They quickly realized that Qasim must know their secret. They killed him without mercy. They cut his body into pieces and hung it inside the cave. They did this as a warning to anyone else who might discover their hideout. They wanted to scare anyone who might try to steal from them again. When Qasim did not return home, his wife became very worried. She went to Alibaba. Alibaba guessed what might have happened. He bravely went to the cave. He found his brother's body. He was very sad. He brought Qasim's body back to the town. He wanted to give his brother a proper burial. This was difficult because he did not want anyone to know how Qasim had died. Luckily, Alibaba had a very clever slave girl named Morgiana. She was loyal and intelligent. She helped Alibaba arrange the burial secretly. The thieves soon discovered that Qasim's body was gone. They knew that someone else must know their secret. The captain of the thieves decided to find this person. He sent one of his men into the town. The thief was told to listen for news of a sudden death. The thief found the cobbler who had secretly sewn Qasim's body. The cobbler, bribed and then blindfolded, led the thief to Alibaba's house. The thief marked Alibaba's door with a white chalk mark. He planned to return later with the other thieves. But Morgiana saw the mark. She cleverly marked several other doors in the street with the same white chalk. So when the thieves came, they could not find the right house. The captain was furious. He killed the first thief for his failure. He sent another thief. This thief used red chalk. Morgiana saw this too. She again marked many other doors with red chalk. The second thief also failed. The captain was even angrier. He decided to go himself. He memorized the look of Alibaba's house. Later, the captain disguised himself as an oil merchant. He came to Alibaba's house with 39 oil jars. One jar was full of oil. The other 38 jars each contained one of the thieves hidden inside. He asked Alibaba for shelter for the night. Alibaba, being kind, agreed. But Morgiana was suspicious. While preparing for a guest, she discovered the men hidden in the jars. Section 9. Justice and Lessons Learned. Morgiana knew she had to act quickly and silently. She needed to protect Alibaba and his family. She thought of a clever plan. She heated a large cauldron of oil until it was boiling hot. Then very carefully and quietly, she went to each of the 38 jars. She poured the boiling oil into each jar. The thieves hidden inside were killed instantly. They could not even cry out. Morgiana was brave and resourceful. She had saved Alibaba's household from a terrible danger. Her quick thinking and courage were remarkable. Later that night, the captain of the thieves expected his men to come out. He gave a signal, but there was no response. He became suspicious. He went to check the jars himself. He discovered that all his men were dead. He was filled with rage and despair. He managed to escape from Alibaba's house in the darkness. He vowed to get revenge on Alibaba and Morgiana. Sometime later he returned. He was disguised as a different merchant. He became friendly with Alibaba's son. He was invited to dinner at Alibaba's house. Morgiana recognized him. During the dinner, Morgiana decided to perform a dance for the guests. She danced with a dagger. As she danced near the disguised captain, she suddenly plunged the dagger into his heart. She killed the last of the 40 thieves. Alibaba was shocked at first, but then Morgiana explained who the merchant really was. Alibaba was immensely grateful to Morgiana. He gave her her freedom. He also arranged for her to marry his son. They all lived happily and wisely with the treasure from the cave. Alibaba used the wealth to help many people. The story of Alibaba and the 40 thieves teaches us some important lessons. It shows that greed can lead to terrible consequences, as it did for Qasim and the thieves. Qasim's desire for more wealth led to his death. The thieves' desire to keep their stolen goods also led to their downfall. On the other hand, the story shows the rewards of cleverness, bravery and loyalty. Alibaba was cautious and took only a little treasure. Morgiana's intelligence and courage saved her master and his family many times. The tale reminds us that true wealth is not just gold and silver, but also kindness, wisdom, and the loyalty of good friends.